Back again with the Carbohydrate series part 3. We want to go on indigenous carbohydrates versus modern carbohydrates.
So I guess there's a really big question around why it is that some cultures were able to eat so much of a certain staple food and we can't do it now. Like why is it that eating too many potatoes or eating too much corn, or what's another example?
Potatoes, corn, the Pacific Islands would probably say taro, taro, throughout all of Pacific are actually very common through there. Then you have up through Central America, maize and corn as their staple. Many things. So firstly we have to acknowledge a huge amount of change. Firstly, for example, if we use the Māori people here in Aotearoa, we could probably say there may be as long as an 800-year history within this landscape, and there were foods brought with them. So we have examples at the far north where they're still using origin species of taro up in the far north. We have the kumara, which we can debatably say has origins in Peru or the areas of kind of like Central South America. They certainly did not come from here. And we also are probably going to acknowledge that our people probably, although they ate a lot of these things, if we look at today's relative energy intake, they probably ate or consumed a lot of other stuff to make up the bulk of their diet. So today carbohydrates are cheap and easy to feed people, so we tend to eat a lot of them. Our sources are poorer, and we also don't buffer it with enough other things. So through the Pacific Islands people, we would say that the staple diet, three key aspects that I believe would have a huge impact on their diet would be taro, seafood, fish and shellfish as their major source of protein, and their major source of fats would come from the fish and shellfish, but also from things like the coconut, which has a beautiful rich fat on that inside of that shell.
It's an amazing fruit. Is it a fruit?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
It is a fruit, but it is. It's like a nut.
Yeah.
Right? It is a nut. The casing of it, the husk, technically makes it a nut, but I believe it's a fruit slash nut.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that contain all that beautiful juice, rich in
electrolytes.
The best electrolytes on this planet, probably, which helps with our muscle function, even our mitochondrial function, like some. We won't get too fancy on it. And then it's full of this wonderful fat, which is a beautiful rich source of fat, just growing on the trees everywhere, abundantly. Additionally, there's obviously the seasonal fruit. I'm inclined to think that whatever was in fruit this season was a great way to buffer the diet, but not just depend on its existence. It's a great rich source there if needed, So the challenges of the challenges we're considering today is indigenous carbohydrates. Why are they different? Well, they are rich in nutrients, number one. So they contain things that we call vitamins and minerals in natural forms, very densely packed. They also contain some energy, which is great, otherwise we would need them. And they also tend to be what we would call low glycemic index, or slower burning carbohydrates. They digest slowly, as well as we can also say theoretically there's an adaptability. It would be probably wise to say that when isolated or indigenous communities and cultures consume a limited basket of foods for generation after generation, the guts, our physiology, which is like our body, our systems, make up muscle, start adapting to utilize that stuff really well.
Almost relying on those foods.
We become very good at utilizing that stuff. And then, in a very short amount of time, we've had the introduction of the Western diet. Which is shocking. You'd probably say in as little as 150 years in the New Zealand landscape of a regular introduction of things like sugar, wheat, potatoes.
Not anywhere near long enough to adapt to.
But we'd probably say I would say that the greatest example of how detrimental the Western diet can be is probably on people's recent entry to New Zealand of Pacific nations origin. So we have a large population of Samoan and from our other nations, Tonga, Fiji. Those people are going to be most adversely affected. They're coming from living on the islands. If they were living on that primarily indigenous food, such as taro, coconut and fish, suddenly coming to New Zealand, removing all the nutrients from their food, and then replacing it with these garbage carbohydrates, which are just adding no value. Their gut has not adapted or evolved to cope with it, so we're seeing a huge amount of, as a result, what do we get? Sickness. We get degeneration, extreme weight gain. So
we just keep eating to try and fill that void of nutrients.
That's right. Yeah. So there are many reasons for why indigenous carbs are better. We've adapted to utilise them better, although even we as humans are starting to adapt. The lands we're living in a new Aotearoa, we're mixed race, and then we've had a small history with variant of food. B, we were not designed to just exist on carbohydrates. Māori Pacific Island people had a high incidence of good quality protein and fat sources in the form of things like coconut and fish. For Māori, there was an adaptation to things like huge intake of shellfish and birds, something that is not commonly understood or spoken about, but the local bird species were, I'm not saying more, I'm saying more things like wood pigeon, things of that nature. So the manu were a large part of the diet, and then we also have not only we have this transition from low nutrient and change of environments and adaptations, low nutrient carbohydrates jumping up, proteins and fats jumping down, but we also just have, we're combating abundance as well. So the best education in abundance is to start, obviously to start young.
Yeah. Oh, not to mention the how much more active our ancestors were.
Absolutely.
They're moving constantly all
work
day.
for their food.
Yeah, they work for their food.
We have to go down to the supermarket.
We still work for the food, but in a different way.
We sedentary work, right?
Yeah.
We're part of the cogs.
And right now, we're sitting down to talk to you instead of being out amongst. Things change.
Yeah, we need to
so
change.
We need to adapt our food.
Yeah, and stigmas. We definitely should not bully, punish. We need to empathise with those who are large, because there's a long pathology behind it. But at the same time, if we're overweight, we need to acknowledge that. It's not beat around the bush and joke like it's okay, because it's not. It's not okay, and it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with in a manner in which we're just learning, and we're making slow, sustainable, and informed changes. Because we lived in a simpler, indigenous manner with good sources, where we could manage our good nutrients and our intakes. And now we've got a host of challenges, and these challenges are likely to increase as we go on. But yeah, that'll be that'll be. We'll leave it there for that one. We don't want to waffle on too much about that. But understanding our indigenous forms, how our landscape has changed, how we have changed, how society has adapted, our energy output has adapted, managing abundance, and even our how our DNA and genetics are changing through racial mixing in this modern era. Sure, sweet.